Well, hello, Star Wars fans. Today is 357 days until Christmas 2020, and I just wanted to have a discussion about the leaks, rumors of the Rise of Skywalker editor's cut, if you will, the J.J. Abrams version, and the state of the fandom and the outrage of folks that are wanting to defend J.J. Abrams, come up to his defense in hopes of getting a J.J. Abrams cut of the movie, or to complain about what Disney has done in reference to editing of the version that's in the theaters today. And there's a couple of thoughts I have here. The first is that every movie that's a big blockbuster type movie has had to come under some sort of cuts. I know that one of my favorite movies from way back, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I've got a collector's version of that DVD set that has multiple cuts that you can work your way through the DVD to see. And there's a director's cut, and there's a theatrical release, and there's a television release, and different things like that. We know with all movies there are this type of different cuts that happen. And it wouldn't be at all out of line for the theatrical release of The Rise of Skywalker that's in theaters today to have undergone the same sort of process. We know that there are scenes that actors were in that get cut. We know sometimes actors entirely get cut from movies or downplayed to just barely show up. And certainly that happens with extras as well. People who volunteer to be in a movie and then they get excited for the release and they're not even in it. So we know that this happens all the time. We know that the director's cut is sometimes released, and famously with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, for example, there are the extended editions of those that are just fantastic. But again, some of the scenes that are in there that I think are really good scenes that help explain the movie better, give more context to the ring, the One Ring, were cut, and in the extended editions, it's made more clear. And that's sort of what we're being alluded to with the Rise of Skywalker, that some scenes were cut or the dialogue was cut down, that some of the extended scene footage and the things that were cut would help explain the movie better as it moves on. I know there's some people complain about the pacing of the Rise of Skywalker. For myself, the pacing did not seem to be an issue. I've got an 18-year-old daughter who also just loves the Rise of Skywalker. She didn't have any issues with it either. Neither did my 28-year-old daughter or my wife. So none of us seem to complain about this pacing issue that a lot of people have. But certainly with an extended version or with a director's cut, I would look forward to see those. What I would expect is that we'll get some cut scenes in a release. We'll be able to see these scenes as we did with The Last Jedi and with The Force Awakens. So at very minimum, I would expect to see cut scenes that were not maybe finished, that have a little CGI that wasn't added, things like that, since it wasn't in the final cut. So might we get a J.J. Abrams cut? I don't know. I've never seen a Star Wars movie with an extended cut or a director's cut, other than what George Lucas has done to us with the original trilogy. And in essence, each of those releases are different versions of director's cuts, but then he took away from us the original theatrical release. And so just for me, if I could give anything to get a director's cut or a theatrical release cut, I would ask for that original trilogy theatrical release, just because of what it meant to the film industry at the time. So that's certainly where that stands. And for the folks that are getting all in an uproar and kind of enraged about what Disney has done to J.J. Abrams, and these Reddit comments that I've read. It seems to me that there's an agenda of kind of stirring the pot. The fandom as a whole has been divided. There's been a great deal of conflict. People who've been just outraged over the uh, kind of the social warrior aspect, if you will, or different elements that they feel like Disney or Lucasfilm or the left is bringing into the movies, or that maybe that some of the fans are just too entitled, and so we get this kind of churning of anger towards one another and towards the movies themselves. The fans towards Star Wars as a franchise, towards Lucasfilm, towards Disney Lucasfilm, if you will. There's different people are trying to define things differently, and then kind of directing their outrage, their anger, or just their disappointment towards that entity. And what I see here is some more stirring of that pot. So the Rise of Skywalker didn't really create a huge fan divide. It didn't continue this wedge. The movie itself is largely kind of fan servicey, if you will. I know that there are some folks within the Reylo community that are very hurt and saddened by what happened with the redemption story of Ben Skywalker or Ben Solo, and they really wanted to see that come through more as a happy ending, a happy ever after kind of thing. But other than the folks who were kind of really engaged with The Last Jedi, who felt like The Rise of Skywalker kind of backtracked on that, or that it undermined the Reylo shipping that happened, then there isn't a great deal of anger towards this movie that there was towards The Last Jedi. And I know that there are certain YouTube channels, certain people who have kind of monetized this emotional reaction to movies. And they've been playing off of The Last Jedi for a couple of years now. And it looks like with the end of the sequel trilogy, the end of this story of Rey and Kylo or Ben Solo, that maybe that monetization stream could be ending, and that the kind of churning up this anger towards Disney, Lucasfilm in regards to J.J. Abrams and the movie that he wanted to make seems to be kind of what they're trying to engage in. I wouldn't buy into that too far. I certainly think that there was a version that JJ had, and then it got cut down, and there may have been some tempers involved as people are passionate about certain elements of the movie, and kind of squabbling about how to make it fit or to cut and to make the movie still make sense. So I don't expect that somebody who's put that much time and effort and passion into a movie would just let go of pieces really easily. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that there's some bad blood between J.J. Abrams or Disney or Lucasfilm, or that somehow Lucasfilm wanted to, or Disney wanted to undermine J.J. Because they didn't get him on contract. So that's my thoughts regarding all these leaks, and just the state of the Star Wars community as a whole seems to be one that is healing. We're starting to see tempers kind of subside, and that this just seems to be something for people to kind of poke the bear, kind of just get things riled up again, and hopefully this will kind of go its way as well, and that within the coming days and weeks we'll see this just kind of go to the side. And when we get the Blu-ray release or the digital release, the Disney Plus release, whatever, we'll get some documentary we'll get some extended edition or some cutscenes, and people will be able to kind of get to that. I also expect that we'll see within a short amount of time J.J. Abrams come out and give some clarification as well. And I think people are just trying to jump on right now to try to take advantage of it, and that as soon as this passes, then they'll try to find something else to be outraged about. And I would just kind of let that go and enjoy Star Wars for what it was, for what it meant to you growing up, what it means to you today. Right now is a golden time, as far as I'm concerned, to be a Star Wars fan. You've got Disney Plus with The Mandalorian. That series was fantastic. I think the bulk of people really love that series. We've got Clone Wars coming out, and on that I'll be joining with a magic maker from Reimagining Star Wars, and we're going to be reviewing the seasons of the Clone Wars as it comes up to the release of season 7, and we'll have some dialogue both on each of our channels as well as some live streams together. So please join us for that, and let's find something to get excited about with Star Wars and not just keep hashing up things to complain about. So that's me. And again, I suggest, if there's a topic you'd like to discuss, if there's something, a question you'd like me to address for a future video, please submit them. We'll put them in Santa's mailbox, and I'll draw them out for a future video. Until then, may the Force be with you. And ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas, everybody.